Hello dear students. This is the video class, and in the class particularly I want to uh, speak on thematic background of the play The Way of the World by William Congreve. And in many classes I have given historical background of the restoration play and background for the characters, and that were all discussed so far. Now this is the class which is highlighting thematic background of the play, and theme also we have discussed uh, in the previous sessions. Now let us see the what thematic background is and how it is essential to understand the plot of the play. We have the world by William Congreve. Let us see that. Before the action of the play begins, the following events are assumed to have taken place. As that we get in the prologue, let us see that what we should assume at forehand before we get into the play The Way of the World. What must we know and what pre-knowledge we should have to understand in detail the play Way of the World. Mirabel, the restoration hero of Congreve in the play Way of the World. He was a young man about town, apparently not a man of great wealth, has had an affair with Mrs. Fainall, the widowed daughter of Lady Wishford. Mirabel, I tell you, as he was a hero and middle class young man of town, and he had an affair with Mrs. Fainall, the wife of Fainall. Mrs. Fainall was a widow daughter of Lady Wishford, and she was a wealthy woman of the time in London. To protect her from scandal in the event of pregnancy, Mirabel has helped engineer her marriage to Mr. Fainall, a man whom he feels to be of sufficiently good reputation to constitute a respectable match, but not a man of such virtue that tricking him would be unfair. Mirabel, though had an affair with Mrs. Fainall and he had some relationship with her, still he could be successful in convincing and arranging the marriage with Mirabel by giving a plan to get her hand, as she was wealthy daughter of wealthy widowed Lady Wishford. Right. To protect her from the scandal in the event of pregnancy, he has helped that is the Fainall, and could be successful in getting Fainall to marry Mrs. Fainall. Final, for his part, married the young daughter of Lady Wishford because he courted her fortune to support his armor with Mrs. Marwood. As Mirabell had an affair with his wife, so Fainal himself was not free and he was an affair with Mrs. Marwood. In time, the liaison between Mirabell and Mrs. Fainal end. With this background, uh, Mirabell's affair, direct affair was ended as Fainal married her. Mirabell found himself in love with Millamant later. The next, he started loving Millamant, the niece and ward of Lady Wishford, and the cousin of his former mistress, that is Mrs. Fainal. And let us see now, in the whole play, we see the complications in each and every characters in the relationships relating to money and love and affair. Financial complications in the plot. Right. There are, however, financial complications in the whole play. Half of Millament's fortune was under her control, but other half of £6,000 was controlled by Lady Wishford to be turned over to Millamant if she married a suitor approved by her aunt Lady Wishford. Half of the finance or the property that is left to Lady Wishford, and that will be turned to the man who would get the hand of Millamant by the consent of the Lady Wishford. This was the situation. Unfortunately, Mirabell had earlier offended by Lady Wishford, and she had misinterpreted his flattery as love. Mirabell, he did not have any kind of good high words by Lady Wishford in the beginning. Mirabell therefore was contrived an elaborate scheme. Therefore, he wanted to organize a scheme, made a plan to get the good words from Lady Wishford. He has arranged for a pretended uncle by his valet, that is Bynum, that is Waitwell, to woo and win Lady Wishford. Then Mirabell tends to reveal the actual status of the successful wooer and obtain her consent to his marriage to Millamant by rescuing her from this misalliance. And right now, let us see the marriage of Fievel and Waitwell predicts the marriage of Mirabell and Millamant. He said that in the very beginning of the play, there was a meeting between the Mirabell and Fainal in the chocolate house. And in the very beginning of the scene, Fievel and Waitwell, they married themselves. Fievel was maid of Lady Wishford, and Waitwell was a servant of Mirabell. They got married. That was a news all around the play. Waitwell was to marry Fievel, Lady Wishford maid, before the masquerade, so that he might not decide to hold Lady Wishford to her contract. Mirabell is too much a man of his time to trust anyone in the matters of money and love. When the play opens, Mirabell is impatiently waiting to hear that Waitwell is married to Fievel. During Measurable's card game with Final, it becomes clear that the relations between the two men are strained. There are units at the fact that Final has been twice duped by Mirabel. Mrs. Final is Mirabel's former mistress, and Mrs. Marwood, Final's the present mistress, is in love with Mirabel. In the meantime, although Millamant quite clearly intends to have Mirabel, she enjoys teasing him in his state of uncertainty. Right, Mrs. Marwood discloses the plot of Mirabel to Final. Actually, the secret plot was made by Mirabel in order to win the heart of Lady Wishford and get marry Mirabel by the consent of the Lady Wishford, the widow. And this, the plot was when it was eagerly discussed, and she was overheard this, and she disclosed it to Final. Mirabel bids fair to succeed until, unfortunately, Mrs. Marwood overhears Mrs. Final and Final discussing the scheme, as well as Mirabel and Mrs. Final earlier love affair. Since Marwood also overhears insulting comments about herself, and she is vengeful and informs Final of the plot and the fact which he suspected before, that his wife was once Mirabel's mistress. The two conspirators now have both motive and means of revenge. In the same afternoon, Willamette accepts Mirabel's proposal and rejects her willful Whitwood Lady Whispered, the candidate for her hand. Final now dominates the auction. He unmasks Sir Roland, the false uncle, and blackmails Lady Whispered with the threat of her daughter's disgrace. He demands that the balance of Element's fortune and now forfeit be turned over to his sole control, as well as the unspent balance of Mrs. Lionel's fortune. In addition, he wants assurance that Lady Wishford will not marry, so that Mrs. Lionel is certain to be the heir. This is how we see the thematic background of the play Lady Whispered in the first part. In the second part, I am going to conclude this thematic background with a brief the plot of the play, uh, that is Way of the World. Let us meet in the next session. Thank you.